growing up in Compton in the '80s was, looking back at it, it's kind of crazy. You could it sort of has like a third world country essence to it if you look back into it, because there was so much going on, and you didn't really process it because it was just everyday life. So it's like, when I was telling somebody not long ago, I can remember being 7 years old, walking like 2 miles to school, in Compton, walking 2 miles to school in the second grade, and holding my little sister's hand, who was 5 years old. She going to kindergarten, I'm going to second grade. Just the amount of neighborhoods and gang environments we walked through just to get to school every day, was just, crazy. Because like these days, as an adult, you can't even make that walk as an adult. But it was kids doing that. It's still to this day, Compton is like that. It's just is what it is, man. And I mean, seeing smokers, crackheads, just and dapping them up and them knowing your name, and I don't know, man. It was just a different time, but there was so much going on. So the violence was there, but you were just accustomed to it because it was what it was. I can remember watching, being in the house watching A-Team or watching cartoons and hearing gunshots ring out and not even flinch. And if you think about it psychologically for a child, that's traumatizing. You know what I'm saying? It should be traumatizing. But when that's what you're accustomed to, it just is what it is. So, my early start was just like that. I was accustomed to seeing, cocaine around the house and, needles in the, in the gutter, and just, dead bodies in the streets. I've seen tons of them as a kid, and it wasn't no thing.
So, how many kids were in the household originally? You and how many siblings?
It was me, my three sisters, two of my brothers, at times, because they're, 4 or 5 years older than me. So they was, out in the streets, running the streets. And then my dad, whenever he wasn't in jail, but, mostly my mom's.
Okay, and Big Face, that's your half-brother?
Yeah, that's when we got the same dad, different mothers.
Got it. So was he in the house or no?
We grew up together. I mean, it's like his mom and my mom's house and his mom's house. Before I was born, his dad was with his mom, primarily when I was born, and my little sister was born, and my dad was with us. But the houses, like I said, wasn't, but shit, I don't know, like not even a mile apart. So he could go, you know how it is when you're a man and you bouncing around doing your thing. Like, he was back and forth from house to house. So, yeah, we grew up together because he would be at my house, or I would go over there and be at, his house, and same thing. So it's kind of like we grew up together under the same roof, if it makes sense, because it's just around the corner,
Now, you ended up in foster care at one point?
Yeah, I ended up in foster care because, my parents got into, a few different, domestic things, and the social workers came in and, deemed it, not, a healthy environment for children. So they took us out when I was in the 3rd or 4th grade. And then I didn't come back. I didn't get released to my mom's till I was probably in like first year of high school or something like that.
Wow, okay. So you get taken out of your home.
Yeah.
And was it your other siblings also got
everybody?
Everybody got put in foster care.
Removed, yeah.
I'm sure that was devastating.
It was devastating, man. It was. I can remember looking out the back window as my house got smaller and just crying out, like tears. And I got switched around from foster home to foster home for like 3 or 4 times before I settled at this one on the outskirts of like Carson, if you're familiar with Carson, California.
Yeah.
And in a neighborhood that was like predominantly Crips, like the one I was grew up in, which was Santana Block, same thing. Basically. But yeah, man, being in a foster home, I had a rough start because every day I just thought about how much I missed, I missed being with my mom, and, just missed my environment, the things that I was used to, my friends, my school, and stuff like that. So I think after the first 6 months, I stopped really crying, and I built this wall that I still, like, got in me today. I heard a lot from my kids' moms about how, tough or brick wall or cold I can be at times, and I just don't have a filter for either pain or sensitivity at times, just because I had to stop basically giving a fuck to cope. You know what I'm saying? As a child. So once I built that wall up, I wasn't no more. I wasn't really looking for my mother to come to the door and pick me up no more. So I thugged it out. It's kind of like if you were locked up in prison, for the first time. And for the first week, you cried and just couldn't understand why you couldn't get out this cage. But after that, you already know. You got to toughen up. You got time. You got a date, and it ain't soon. And so you got to just get straight with what's going on and kind of just adapt to it. And so that's what I did as a kid.
I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people that went through the foster care system. And most times there was some level of abuse that happened. Did you go through that?
Abuse as far as like
any type of abuse,
like parental or what?
Well, just a lot of times these foster parents don't really care about the kids. They're just getting a check.
Abuse in the foster home.
Exactly.
No, I had once I landed with Auntie Esther. That's what we called her. Mm-hmm. Once I landed with Auntie Esther, man, she treated us all with love and care, and I got lucky that I landed in her home, because from the time that I landed there to the time that I departed, like she was like really like a aunt. And so that's why we called her Auntie Esther. And every child that came through there, she treated with love. And some she even adopted on her own, and took in as her own. And she treated us all the same. And so the biggest, I think the biggest thing about being in a foster home was having ethnic brothers, right? Foster brothers, because I go to school and it would be like Paul and Nathan, they were white kids, and then I would have Chris and Calvin, which were two Spanish kids, two Mexicans. So at home they was my brother. So when we went to school and somebody used to say, you got a Mexican brother, you got a white brother, we had to square up, and we had to go to toes, because I loved them like they was my brothers, and that's the type of camaraderie and the brotherhood we had in the foster home. We fought like brothers on the inside, but then on the outside we had to stand up and hold each other down. I think only 2 of the 6 of us are alive at this point, because once we got into our teenage years, everybody veered off and joined gangs, and what I'm saying. So, few of us, got murdered out in the streets, and a few of us, like I said, still alive. I think might be just me, Chris, and Nathan.
Do you guys still keep in touch?
Yeah, I talked to him. I talked to Nathan a few days ago. He went through a little, battle with drug addiction and shit like that, but he doing well now.
Okay, so then what? Freshman year of high school, you come back home?
Freshman year of high school, I come back home. I think it might have been sophomore year.
Okay.
I come back home. I go straight to Compton High School,
What the heck is
Crip
this?
neighborhood. Park Villages, Farm Dogs, Santana Blocks. Just cripped out the game. My older brother went to Centennial, which is blood school. That's where Kendrick went. Aaron to follow. Niggas like that. For me, it was, going across the tracks and, fucking with my brother and his homies after school, and that was Cedar Block, and so there was always a conflict about me and my Bulls, my starter Bulls pullover or my Dennis Rodman jersey and whatever it was at school, but, obviously I made it out alive, and I, went through a lot of hardships, but at the end of the day, I held mines. I played basketball. I was just, like I said, I was gangbanging, and I did it all. Like, it was just all in the gumbo pot. And but that was just Compton,
Okay, so when did you become a Blood exactly?
I want to say I became a Blood when my brother became a Blood, because that was who I looked up to, and that's who I basically patterned myself and my lifestyle after. And when I say my brother, I don't even mean Big Face. I mean, my brother Derek is from Crenshaw Mafia. So, he would come pick us up, because my pops would always say, you got to go bond with your brother. And so he'd come pick me up, he'd take me on the show. I'll be, I don't know, little as shit, man, 5 and 6 years old on Crenshaw, watching all this gang activity. But, and that brother is, a little bit more older than my other brother. He's like 10 years older than me. So, when he was 16 and 17 and I was 6 and 7 years old, like he was, driving BMWs, and, he had all, 3 and 4 cars. And at that point, at that time, for him to be, now that I look at it, a 16-year-old, I have a 16-year-old who can barely drive, who doesn't have a car yet, because he'd rather play video games than go and get his, his driver's license, and he will. But, when I compare my 16-year-old to the 16-year-old brother that I had raising me, it was just a totally different world back then. And, it was just crazy, but that was my role model. He was like Superman to me. And then my brother Face, followed, after him, not, right after him, but, he was getting down, with Cedar Block. And so, that's where it was. That's where it was for me. That was home for me.
Okay, so you're going to Compton High School, and you're claiming Blood. And was Compton High School mostly Crip, or? Was it mixed?
It was like 5 Bloods. Most of them.
And everyone else was Crip?
Most of them hidden, yeah.
Okay. So what was the most serious situation you were getting into during that time?
Well, see, the thing about Compton is this. It's like, no matter who joins what gang, like, we pretty much all went to elementary school and middle school together, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, we know each other. So some niggas that went the Crip route that was hard was a kid in 3rd grade that you was taking his motherfucking lunch money. So it's like, when we become teenagers, it's like, nah, I ain't going for that. So it would take a group of them niggas to really press the issue, or catch you slipping, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it was, everybody knew me. I was JC, you know what I'm saying? So everybody knew me. We grew up together. We grew up hooping at the park, whatever. So, I mean, it was just personal, personal shit. And so you really only had murderous or killing intent with niggas that you really didn't grow up with or you really didn't know. But if you grew up with somebody and you was blood and it was Crip, it was always that childhood love that you just couldn't really overstep or violate. So a lot of niggas that are living today got passes because of, we just went different routes, and that is what it is what it is, or was what it was. But a nigga you didn't know was just a nigga you didn't know. And then nobody give a fuck about a nigga they didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So that's when it was up.
Okay, so during this time, during high school, were you getting in trouble, getting arrested at all, or were you just mostly just focused on school and basketball?
So I went to jail twice as a teenager, and the other times I think I just got lucky and slid through without detection. I think that for me, I was known as like the intelligent gangster. You know what I'm saying? I always thought out every mission. I always thought out everything that I did. I thought out, selling drugs and the way that I would, distribute, or the way that I would run with homies. If we was gonna go get at somebody, it would be all me on the strategic side, making sure that everybody got in and they got out alive. So I was just I just went under the radar for most of the the heinous shit that I participated in. And then I went to jail for like stealing the car in 11th grade, and I ended up going to the county. That was my first time in the county, and that motherfucker was a rude awakening for me, because straight off the bat, you either go in the general population or you get segregated in the gang module. And at that point, I had no gang tattoos yet, so I was able to slide straight into Gen Pop, which is smooth because you ain't isolated from everybody, and you can kind of just be a chameleon, you know what I'm saying, blend in. So that was my first time. Now the second time I went back, it was like a year later, still in the same, still in high school. Went back like almost, I don't know, 8 or 9 months later. And I was banging and I had tattoos. And so, they break you down, they look at your test, they ask you where you from. So most times they know where you from. And then they put you with, the Bloods. And even that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it be drama in there sometimes. So 5400 block Denver Road, that's where I ended up. And, sometimes you just gotta catch phase with your own homies for, miscellaneous shit that happened on the outside, or if when you went to Gen Pop last time, but you was in a gang and you wasn't with the homies, just all kind of different shit, So when I was on 5400, that was that was general population. And then, when I went back and I was in the gang module, it was a whole different situation. It was cool to be with the homies, but then sometimes it wasn't if you had like, just inner gang issues and shit. You know what I'm saying? So, but the county, I know a lot of people say I've never been to the federal penitentiary in my life. But from what I heard and what I know, like, I don't know, man, the county jail in LA, the Twin Towers, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's not no joke in there. And just like any other prison in the world, you could definitely lose your life in there. A lot of niggas get transferred to Wayside, and that might be bull for them, but some niggas don't. And you gotta, they call it, you do your county lig. You're supposed to only be in the county jail for a year, but sometimes niggas be in there for 2 and 3. And yeah, you get washed in there too.
Okay, so you graduate high school and you go to a couple different community colleges.
Yeah.
But were you trying to play basketball at that point?
Trying to play basketball, trying to figure it out, man. The lure of gangbanging was always something that was like, I don't know, dear to me. That might be, weird to say, but gangbanging was always like first for me because it's just, I don't know, it was tough. It was hard for me. I liked it. I really loved it, and it was all that I knew. Basketball was my favorite thing to do though. So and I of course, my basketball history, Drew League, not the fighting ones, man. The actual dribbling the ball and putting it in the hole. Always had a love for basketball, man. So I tried until it was just evidently clear that that wasn't the path for me, and then that's when I started doing my rap thing.
Okay, so by 2001, you were deep in the streets, and then a shooting happened.
Yeah.
Tell me about the situation.
2001, man, we, again, like I told you a minute ago, I was usually the strategic one. Inherited that way of, being in the streets from my older brother Face. He was OD with being careful. He had rules and regulations that that we must follow inside the trap, and when selling dope and, just hustling in general. And so one of the first rule was just never to sell after midnight because, it just ain't that important. We get as much off as we can during the day. At midnight, we shut down operation. Everybody get a good night's rest, and we back up at the first knock, you know what I'm saying, in the morning when the sun come up. For obvious reasons. Like after midnight is when niggas get to plotting, niggas is tired, niggas is not really up on their, P's and Q's. So, I was greedy this one night, and it was a knock on the door. I was playing Madden, and I just happened to be there by myself. Everybody that was normally in the trap was just out. You know what I'm saying? So my brother was at his baby mama house. My other homie Vale, rest in peace, Vito. He was out too, fucking off with a chick or some shit, and I was there by myself just playing Madden. I heard a knock on the door, and I looked at the peephole, and there was this corny ass square nigga that always come through. And he get some trees, and he get a little, something else, and then he dip. So when I looked through the door, I could see it's him. So I'm like, I'll serve this nigga, and then I'm gonna just kill it after this. But let me make this little 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 if you want an 8 ball or something like that. So I opened the door. As soon as I opened the door, 2 other niggas came behind him with guns drawn, and it sort of like blew me back off the door. I didn't fall down, but I had my 45. Or my Glock, I can't remember which one it was, but it was on the kitchen table. And one of the niggas seen it, and he went for it, and I went for it, and we had a struggle for it that ended where we ended up tussling on the ground, and I started to really get the edge on him in the tussle and retrieve the gun from him, but he felt it coming, and so his finger was around the trigger of it, so he pulled the trigger, and then I got shot in the chest. Got up, I flew back not knowing that I was shot, and I started running down the hallway to get my shotgun, my sawed-off from the back room, and he shot twice more, and I got shot in the ankle, and then I got shot in the stomach too, and then I thought he was going to come up and just, give me the dome shot or the kill shot. So I just closed my eyes, and I was like, I really told myself, like literally told myself, I was like, damn, so this is it. But I wasn't scared of nothing. I wasn't scared. I didn't have no fear. I didn't feel like I was going to miss nothing. I didn't have no children yet, so I didn't really have nothing to hold on to. Me and my mom's relationship was strained. Me and my pop's relationship was strained. And so all I had was a few little chicks and my little sidekick that I probably was going to miss. But other than that, I was about to say my peace with God and just, I didn't expect to make it out of that. Closed my eyes. By the time I opened them, they was gone. And I guess he thought he killed me. And so they was gone. I remember crawling to the bathroom floor and somehow getting my Motorola flip phone with the chirp off my head. And I called 911 for myself and just told them I was shot. And they sent the ambulance, and then I passed out, and I didn't wake up for like a few weeks.
Okay, this is the first time you ever got shot?
Yeah.
The guys who did it, did you know who they were? You knew the guy that was coming by, but the other 2 guys?
Nah, I never seen them in my life.
Okay. When you did wake up, was there a level of rage and anger and revenge and like, I can't believe these motherfuckers just shot me?
Nah. When I woke up, I felt like I hadn't even been asleep before like the night that it happened, but it ended up being like a few weeks later.
So and you were in a coma for weeks?
Yeah, for like 3 weeks.
So you could have easily died that night?
should have died that night, could have died that night, and didn't give a fuck if I died that night, to be honest. I just didn't care. And that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the conversation. It's like, you know, when you're a child and you're being brought up in these situations, you're accustomed to the lifestyle, and you know what it is. Like everybody that gangbang know what it is, unless you go and get somebody that is like, you know, I don't know, has issues, you know, underlying issues with their health or something, or, you know, mental, you know, their mental state when they're younger. But other than that, anybody that is functioning normal as a child and or as a teenager and you join a gang, you know that, you know what, you know, with that comes jail, death, or a slippery slope, and that you may survive. So when it was time for me to, you know, potentially like be out of here, I didn't give a fuck.
I mean, isn't it crazy now when you think about it? Because you have kids that are approaching this age.
Right.
And they were totally sheltered because dad has money and they don't have to grow up in this type of environment. They have no idea what it's like to not give a fuck that you live or die, or dealing with guns, drugs. Like, they have a totally different life than you. Does that bring you a certain level of pride that they didn't have to go through what you went through?
It brings me a level of pride, but yeah, it does. It brings a tremendous level of pride, right? Like, I can't thank myself enough. Like, I have a kid in college right now in his third year. He's a junior, my firstborn.
Nice.
You know, he's on the cover of the documentary. Now he in college saying, yo, which is crazy. Like, he just hit me daily. Like, yo, Dad, I need money for groceries. Dad, my rent due. You know, Dad, you know, tuition. You know, it's like that. And so I think that's cool. You know, that's why I'm smiling now, because I think that's cool. I look at him and I be like, oh, boy, you don't have no idea, which is crazy because he does have some idea, because he was 3 and 4 and 5 when I was still in it. And so it's my younger children that don't have no idea about what's going on, and I think that that's cool.
Yeah.
The part about it that I don't, it's a small part, but it's a small part of it that I don't like, is that this generation, my kids included, they so soft, man. Like, they soft as hell, man. It's like everything hurt. Everything is paining them. Everything is like, what my son told me a few weeks ago, told me he was depressed about something. And I'm like, man, what you depressed about? You're like, I'm trying to juggle football with my classes. I want to, you know, the new 2K just came out. I just can't figure out how to do it all. And I'm just like, hey,
I wish I had your problems at your age.
I'm like, look, well, let's do it like this. How bad you want to play football? He's like, I want to play football. And I was like, school is, you know, you have to do well at school, you know what I'm saying? And so I was like, maybe you need to fall back on the video games. And so I let him govern himself accordingly. I'm like, look, give yourself a time to play and a time that, you know, you just know that you have to do other things, and then grant yourself an adequate amount of sleep per night, and then let's revisit this in a week.
Get ready for the next battle.
And then you know, we talked again in the week, and now I'm all good, Dad, I'm good. And I'm like, these are the conversations that we need to have with our children before TikTok gets in this suicidal, and this is a serious thing.
Yep.
You know, these kids getting depressed and this emo music, and them going on TikTok, and then next thing you know, your kid has hung himself in a room or shot himself because they can't figure out how to compartmentalize everything that they're going through. We didn't have nobody to run to. Your mom just tell you shut the fuck up and go upstairs, and that was it. Or you on punishment, or take everything out your room, and you just had to deal with it. You couldn't pull out your phone and Google self-help, or where do I go for this or where do I go for that. The internet has these kids in a whirlwind, man. It's just making everybody so soft. And we got all these groups out here, like,
Oh boy.
look at an owl. It's like an owl, special owl group. They come and like, you can't look at the owl like this because we're the owl group. And if you are like, there's a concrete ant. Like, it's just all these different groups of people. So everything is so sensitive these days, man, that like, it's just, the world is just crazy, man. I feel like we on the verge, man.
Round 2.
Okay, so you're recovering in the hospital. No challenges. Up until this point, did you ever consider rapping?
I was dabbling with rap, and you know, the major point of the early stages of my rap career was 106 Park. Just sitting in a dope spot, waiting for the next album to go watching 106 Park. I look forward to that because it was just cool, videos, enjoy, any type of hip hop. You was gonna see, it was #1, whether it was, J.E. Big Pimpin' or John Woo Holla, all of that shit, all of that stuff was just as enticing as gangbanging was for me. So I really started to get into it. And in the beginning, man, it was rough. What the hell? Like when you start your rap career, right? You don't have a natural talent for it. I don't think that I had a natural talent for it.
What?
My childhood traumas, my story, my life, and then my knowledge of the hip-hop artists is what carried me through the early stages of my career. So yeah, I started like around that time.
Okay, so was it in the hospital bed that you started kind of formulating this plan to become a rapper?
It was while I was comatose that when I woke up, I kind of knew how to arrange rap records a little bit.
Okay. Now, your name, The Game, I actually just found this out recently. It's based on the movie The Game with Michael Douglas and Sean Penn. No?
Nah, but I seen The Game with Michael Douglas and Sean Penn.
I read that your grandmother, was a big fan of that movie, and that's kind of how you came up with it.
My grandmother was from Texas, so I played video games a lot when I was younger, so she would just be like, I was also good at basketball and football, I ran track and did all that, so she would just be like, it's a Texas saying, she would just be like, that was just game for anything. So it went from like her, just saying, I'm gonna call you little game, it was a little man, it was just game, you know what I'm saying? So when it came time to choose a rap name, I had all these ridiculous ass rap names. My sister was just like, why don't you just use your regular nickname? And I was like, what? She was like, Game. She was like, put Mr. or the with it. And I was like, Mr. Game. This sounds like a porn star. She was like, well, it's the, right? Okay. And she was like, the Game. Like, the rest of it. Like, whatever. Triple H. She's like, the Game. I'm like, she was like, the Game. The worst. And so I'm like, all right, the Game. Triple H trying to like sue me or some shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy shit, man.
Okay, so now you're The Game.
Right. No, I've been The Game.
Right. But you're officially the Game. And you put together your first mixtape. You know what it is, Volume 1.
Fight.
And Big Grace was involved in this also?
You know what it is, Volume 1. He was involved in it. More so on the support level than just involved. You know what I'm saying? I think that might have been, I think that was like I can't remember who did that tape. No, I think it was me and DJ. I can't remember his name, bro. But I don't think it was Steve or Devil. Yeah, I think it was DJ. I can't forget his name, but he was dope, man. I can see his face. Yeah, you know what it is, Volume 1. I just went and recorded that. DJ Ray. DJ Ray's a good dude, man. Let me use his studio and like record my shit, man. It was hard. I can remember when I did that mixtape, I was signed Aftermath, and Dre was telling me don't do mixtapes.
Okay, when this happened after Aftermath?
Yeah, when it's like,
okay, all right. So let me figure this out. Because before Aftermath, you had got with JT the Bigger Bigger.
Yeah, before.
Yeah. So was that mixtape?
That was damn. What was the name of that? It was more so my demo.
Okay, so the demo that came together.
The demo was working with JT the Bigger Bigger and Sean T in the Bay.
The producer. Yeah. Okay, so you put together this demo with JT on Get Low Records. Did you sign with him at that point, or was it just only shit?
Nah, I was just handshake shit, street shit.
Okay. And before you got with Dre, wasn't working with you also?
I was running around with Puff for a minute. We was just partying, man. Puff like party. So that's basically all we did. I think the few times I was running around with D-Mac and Puff, we just did a bunch of partying. We might have went to the studio once or twice, but I didn't get to record nothing. I was just,
Okay, but I mean, Puffy was a huge deal back then.
Still,
he's still a huge deal, but he's not doing music anymore, right. Is what I'm saying. Back then, Bad Boy was on fire, and he's running around with you. Puffy's a busy guy.
I was running around with him.
Yeah. you were running around with him.
Right.
Was he talking about signing you, or what exactly happened?
Nah, Puff he wanted to sign me. He just, he was moving around. Like, he had the restaurant Justin's in Atlanta, so we was in and out of that. A lot of parties in Atlanta with him and V and, Big Wolf and, Fab and Jeezy was just, Fab was already on. Jeezy was coming of age. But we just partied, man. And then when I told Puff, I was like, yo, Dre is interested in signing me. He was like, go ahead, Playboy. That's where you belong anyway.
Okay.
Like, man, he was like, that makes sense. And contractually, I didn't have nothing with Diddy anyway. It was just always, I could whenever we slow down and whatever. But he definitely would have. He never say that, like, I regret that I didn't do it. And then he said, you belong with Dre. And I'm glad that that's the move you made.
Okay, because you also had this other mixtape, QB to Compton.
Yeah, QB to Compton. I can't remember who did that tape.
Did Get Low Records that put that out, or?
Yeah. So I didn't have nothing to do with that.
Huh.
That was just JT the Bigger Figure doing what JT the Bigger Figure do.
Together,
he just slapped me with Nas and was like, I'm gonna put this.
Oh, so that's why it's called QB to Compton, because it was Nas and Game.
I had never even met Nas yet or recorded with Nas, but I mean, that's
some big shit. That's some big shit. I know what that's like.
But you know what? It made his rounds, man. And people really fuck with that. So I mean, I think he took the songs that I didn't use, in the demo and sort of put it together with Nas and he put that out. But like, yeah, people fuck with it. That's why it was so reminiscent to me when you said it. I was like, but I got so much musical content that I'll be forgetting what's what sometimes.
Okay, so you and JT are rocking together and you're putting out these demos and these projects, and at one point it gets on Dre's radar.
Right.
So did he send Mike Lynn to your block at one point?
Yeah, Mike Lynn came to the block, and he was looking for game. And at that time, when you came to Cedar Block, man, we was at war. With the T-Flats. We was at war with a few different Crip gangs, so we had the block sold up. I mean, it was like some old Nino Carter type shit, because you couldn't even get on the block without getting drew down on, rolling your window down and saying who you was coming to see. Plus, it was a dead end, and every nigga on the block was strapped up. Eventually, we ended up getting raided and whatnot. And but yeah, man, we had a stronghold on that block and that whole little area at that time.
Okay, so Mike Lynn comes by looking for you. And did he actually talk to you that time?
No, he didn't talk to me that time.
Okay. And I remember, I've been on that block.
Right.
And I remember even, like, if we fast forward to, like, the mixtape, remember I got the mixtape sponsored by Royal Blunts.
Yeah.
Right? And then Royal Blunts sent all these packages to your house,
right.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, New Jersey Devil and some of the other, homies from the block were like, yo, thank you so much for that, because we'd be risking our lives going to the corner store
just walking across the street
to get some blunts.
Mm-hmm.
Literally risking lives
every day,
or getting shot. And the fact that they had all these blunts for free almost like saved people's lives in a way.
Nah, it did, man. It did. Y'all did that, man. You just out there doing God's work. You know what I'm saying?
I got you. No, but I remember, that block was definitely dicey. And, I could have just, I was there with New Jersey Devil. I was escorted into there. But I would have just rolled up solo. That would have been crazy.
Nah, back then, man, that wasn't even an option.
Yeah.
Like, you would have never even been able to turn the corner.
Yeah, because it's what, like, was it 6 houses with a dead end at the end, or 8 houses?
Yeah, it's three on each
side. Yeah, right. I remember. Okay, so did Mike Lynn come back and then find you eventually?
Yeah, Mike Lynn came back and we talked, and at that point, he took me to Encore Studios in Burbank, which was basically Aftermath headquarters at that point. In time, and I just walked in on one of those days where everything was going on, man, because you had 50 was in the room. They was working on in the club, which at that point in time in the club was the first time the beef in the club was originally supposed to be for Rakim.
Okay.
But I don't know what happened with that. But I mean, you see that what 50 did with it, so it definitely belonged in the hands of his hands, because in the club is in the club. But Busta Rhymes was there, Eve was there, Rakim was recording. It was just Nate Dogg was there. It was just a lot of shit going on, and I was just like a kid at an amusement park for the first time. Like I was just expecting to come and see Dr. Dre, which was going to be, mind blowing as it is. But I got to see Snoop. That was my second time seeing Snoop in my life, which was dope. And then me and Busta Rhymes for the first time, me and him, we clicked instantly. It was just a genuine, big brother, little brother thing with me and him is still existing to this day. He calls me borderline disrespectful. He says I do the most disrespectful shit ever known to man, but I get right to the line and then I just stay right there. I never go to the point where it could, like, I don't know, give me 25 to life or something. So he always says that I stop. But yeah, that was aftermath in those days.
I mean, being from the West Coast like me and you, meeting Dr. Dre
was fucking life-changing.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find a lot of artists on the West Coast that didn't come from that Dr. Dre family tree.
Yeah.
It all really comes from him.
I think everything on the West, outside of, I don't know, I want to say YG.
YG, yeah.
YG